All right, let's talk about Palantir. This is a company that's just wrapped in mystery and honestly, a lot of controversy. So the big question we're tackling today is pretty simple. Is its crazy rise all about some game-changing tech, or is it just some really, really good marketing? Let's dig in.
When you talk to investors, they are split right down the middle on this one. You've got one camp that's absolutely convinced Palantir is the next Nvidia, a fundamental piece of the whole AI puzzle, but for software. And the other camp? They think it's a total house of cards, just built on a cool, mysterious image without the real value to back it all up. So, which one is it?
And the reason for all this heated debate? Well, Palantir's stock has shot up an incredible 900% in just the last 2 years. I mean, a number like that, it forces you to ask, what is really going on under the hood? And to figure that out, we've got to start with the people who built it. See, to really get Palantir, you first have to understand the powerful and, often controversial vision of its founders. Their personal beliefs are just baked into the company's DNA.
So on one hand, you have Peter Thiel. He's a Silicon Valley legend, right? From the PayPal mafia, an early backer of Facebook and OpenAI, and he's a huge believer in a powerful U.S. military. And then you have Alex Karp, the CEO and the company's biggest cheerleader. His whole philosophy boils down to two things. The future is going to be defined by software and by the USA.
And this quote from Thiel, it tells you everything you need to know about their strategy. That whole mysterious, powerful, maybe even a little scary image that Palantir has, that's not an accident. It is absolutely by design. They're building a story of immense power. Because think about it. When your customers are governments and militaries, being seen as incompetent is basically a death sentence.
That story really kicked off way back in 2003. Thiel took the fraud detection tech they'd built over at PayPal and had this big idea. What if we used it to spot criminals and, enemies of the state? The original pitch was straight out of Lord of the Rings. A Palantir, a crystal ball, a seeing stone that could automatically track people. And that myth, the myth of the all-seeing eye, it still kind of hangs over the company today.
But here's the thing. That original magical idea, it didn't really work. Turns out, real-world intelligence data is way, way messier than financial data. So Palantir had to pivot. And what they built instead, that became the real heart of their business. It's a concept that sounds super complicated, but it is the key to understanding everything they do.
And that concept is called an ontology. I know, it sounds like something out of a philosophy class. But their CEO, Alex Karp, argues it's one of only two things that's going to create real value in this whole AI revolution. The other thing being chips, like what Nvidia makes. Simply put, an ontology is just a way to organize data by creating a map of how every single piece of information connects to every other piece.
So from now on, whenever you hear that word ontology, just replace it in your head with this phrase, a living map of an organization's data. That's it. That is the core service Palantir sells. They don't just dump data on you, they give you the map that shows how it all connects.
So how does this actually work? Well, imagine you're a big utility company like PG&E. First, Palantir comes in and connects all your messy, disconnected data sources. Then, they build that ontology, that map that connects every power line, every station, every customer. And once that map exists, then the company can use powerful AI and analytics to make way faster, way smarter decisions.
Now, this whole idea of creating data maps, it isn't just for one type of client. Palantir has actually split their company into two very different business divisions.
So their commercial side is called Foundry. It's aimed at huge corporations, and it goes head-to-head with other data giants like Databricks and Snowflake. This is where you see that super high growth, but it's also a bit more fragile. Then you have Gotham. This is their government and defense business, and this is all about stable, sticky revenue. Because once a government agency starts using their software, it is very, very hard for them to switch.
And this chart really shows you a huge shift that's been happening. The government side of the business is now Palantir's biggest growth engine. Just last quarter, government contracts pulled in $486 million, actually overtaking their commercial business. So, what happened? Why the big surge?
Well, what happened was a massive change in thinking inside the Pentagon. The Department of Defense had this realization that the next war won't just be won with jets and tanks, but with better, faster, more adaptable software. This basically created a brand new market for software defense contractors. And Palantir, with its tech and its connections, was sitting in the perfect spot to just own it.
Okay, so that brings us to the elephant in the room, the biggest source of all the hype, artificial intelligence. What does Palantir actually do in the world of AI? Because this is where most of the confusion, and honestly, most of the excitement, really comes from. Let's just be crystal clear about this.
Palantir does not build its own giant AI models like Google's Gemini or OpenAI's GPT. That's not their game. Their customers bring those models to the table. Palantir's stroke of genius was creating their AIP, their artificial intelligence platform, which uses AI to do their main job, building those data maps, but way, way faster. And that speed is what lit a fire under their business, driving a 65% jump in customers and finally making them profitable.
And their secret weapon here is a technique called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. It sounds fancy, but the idea is simple. Before an AI gives you an answer, it first looks through all of a company's private data to find the most relevant facts. Now, if your data is a mess, this doesn't work very well. But if you have Palantir's perfect living map, that process becomes insanely precise. You get incredibly accurate, powerful results. And that is their big advantage in the age of AI.
Okay, let's put it all together. You've got the powerful founders, the core tech with this ontology idea, the two different businesses, and their unique angle on AI. All of this leads to the central dilemma, the big question that every single person looking at this company has to answer.
And that brings us to the two big stories about Palantir. The bull case is all about that explosive growth, those super stable government contracts, and being the first to really crack this software defense market. The bear case, it says the stock is just valued way too high, that the hype is way ahead of the reality, and that their success has more to do with who they know than what they've built.
And I mean, this chart, it makes the bull case pretty darn compelling. The numbers are just hard to argue with. Their U.S. commercial business is up 121% year over year. Government revenue is up 52%. This is the kind of insane growth that gets investors so excited.
So we end up right back where we started, with that one central question. After looking at the founders, the tech, the business model, you have to decide for yourself. Is Palantir's incredible run all about a truly superior technology that nobody else can touch? Or is it really a story of being in the right place at the right time with a great story and, maybe most importantly, all the right friends? That is the billion-dollar question.